the best part about what we're doing with the meat of the matter is that we get to meet people with amazing stories. And today, Mark and I sat down with Maranda Adams and we had a conversation. And this was one of those conversations that, you know, I we should be sharing, because the stuff that happened in her life and how in her process, her journey, her path is so amazing, and it's making the impossible. The doctor said that they didn't know what was going on, and this is one that I think we should not only share with each other, but share to the people that are curious about this way of eating, and this curious or looking to start or looking to heal. This stuff is real, and these are real people, real conversations. And Maranda Adams and her social media handle, The Way of Eating, is living proof that things that are impossible are possible. And I really hope you enjoy, share, and pay attention to this presentation with Maranda Adams, Way of Eating. Enjoy. All right. Welcome back to the meat of the matter. Today we're having a conversation with Maranda Adams, and I know her stuff is The Way of Eating on social media, and I'm a big fan because I follow her stuff. We're going to get into some questions, and we really appreciate you coming on and talking with us today, Maranda, and tell us a bit about yourself, how you got into this, where you're from, and we'll go from there.
Well, I'm originally an Oregonian, but I traveled around with my husband. He's a railroader, and now I'm in Iowa. But I had gotten sick about 14 years ago. I've had issues in the past, little things like hypoglycemia, an early gallbladder removal at age 16, hysterectomy early, a lot of things, but just the basic, not going to hurt you too much in life, I guess, but the basic things you go through. And then, now it's been 17 years, but I had gotten bit by a red ant, and it created Lyme's disease, which is odd, but the doctors later took them a long time, a couple of years, to figure it out that red ant had to have ingested a tick that had Lyme's. And so it gave me Rocky Mountain, alpha gal, and Lyme's disease, all three. Wow. One bite. And nobody diagnosed or treated it. Although I went to the hospital, I couldn't lift my arms. Just literally the next day, I could not lift them. And so went to the emergency room. They did like a CAT scan on my brain, different things. And they're like, we don't know, and sent me home. And so from there, it's just been a journey. Like, I couldn't walk the first year or two, hardly. I had a walker. It was just down from that point on. Couldn't read and write very well. Couldn't think. Your mind starts thinking different. You don't even know how to express words or how to communicate anymore. Like, you're thinking or feeling something and you're saying something else. It's very weird, very strange. So I understand how people feel when they are sick and what they go through, because it's not just mind fog, it's actually mind change. And throughout that journey, I was searching for stuff. I tried different things because I felt a little better if I ate non-processed, which I was never a big, I never drank sodas. I did live, as a kid, I lived cheap and had a lot of cereal and cheap foods. We weren't rich, but I always tried to eat pretty healthy. I thought, I ate quinoa and all the, healthier salads and such. So I wasn't, and I was told because of my gallbladder not to eat meat very much. And then the alpha gal couldn't eat meat at all. So I was very limited on meat. I was pretty much vegetarian or vegan the whole time. And so I was pretty cautious about what I ate, but I tried different crazy things. I tried the total vegan shakes for like 3 months. I tried low calorie. I tried a ton of things before. I found this little blog online, and this girl said she had my symptoms. I don't even know who it was still to this day, but she had my exact symptoms just on a little random blog. And I was just so desperate and just felt, I really, towards that point, I felt like I was dying. I mean, me and my husband both were just like, she's just dying, because my fibro brought seizures. And so these seizures, I would be screaming in pain. And it was just getting to a point of they couldn't even control the pain, levels at the doctors. You go to the hospital to get morphine. I mean, literally, when I went through my records, it was like every month I was going to the hospital. And it just got to a point where I was just like, I don't even think I'm going to make it anymore. Like, I just can't even, and you get depressed because you can't function. So it's a lot all at once. But when I found that, I knew I had alpha gal. So I even brought it to my husband, and he's like, that could kill you. And I'm like, it could, but I'm dying. I just don't know what else to try anymore. And literally within 2 weeks of starting just carnivore, just beef, I do still do my coffee. I did try quitting that a couple of times, but it just didn't, it didn't seem to be a factor. I do organic, but so coffee, beef, cheap beef, didn't even go with grass fed, nothing, just cheap beef and the sea salt. And 2 weeks, my body aches went from like level 10 to level 5. And then within 3 months, my energy just like, I mean, I couldn't lift my purse. Like, I couldn't hold my purse without extreme pain. And it could have hardly nothing in it. It was just, a few of my little IDs, a really light purse. And then I literally felt like I could lift things, and I was lifting like 50 pounds. And it was just like, this can't be real. This can't be. And it's just so phenomenal. And then through the journey, it's been 3 years now, 3.5 almost. And you just keep healing. Like, there's just more and more like, I thought, well, this is it, I'm doing good now. And then you're like, no, there's more, you're more pain-free. There's an actual total pain-free where you wake up and there's no body aches. You can go work out at the gym, and the next day there's not body aches. It's just been phenomenal.
Yeah. That is quite amazing. And I mean, when we're, it's not only like warms my heart to know that, you've come back to life, and it's quite often those little things that people don't realize that are like, the quality of life is so important. And we often get put into this stuff with the carnivore way of eating, into weight loss. And it's so much more than weight loss. And it's really, I mean, I would like to get into a little bit of the alpha gal, because that seems to me like, isn't that what, can you explain to people what it is?
Well, that's supposed to be a disease or syndrome that the tick gives you, and you can't eat meat. Like, you reject meat. So I was very scared at that point too.
Yeah.
And then also I have 3 white matter spots on my brain. And when I was looking over my medical last year, they were still, after it's been like 8 years of, them, well, the whole time, really 14 years, them searching, right? They were still looking for the MS to grow.
Wow.
So they were assuming that I could have, and it was turning right towards the end, it was turning into lupus. They were saying, well, your fibros now has all the markers first. And it just, it just grows and grows, all these diseases and inflammation.
Yeah. That's so alpha gal is you basically, I've heard like your body just rejects meat. So how did you start like experimenting with beef?
I just sort of kind of went full force.
Right on.
I wasn't OMADing or nothing at the beginning, I just ate a whole bunch of meat, and I was just like, whatever comes will comes. And at first, your stomach, I don't know if that happens to everybody, but my stomach was a little like, what are you doing? What's going on? This is new. And I worried about that. I was like, well, maybe this is causing a problem, but it really didn't feel worse than anything else I felt, and it didn't cause anything. So I was like, I'm just going to keep going and mowing through it and see what happens.
Yeah,
That's
I think that's the most important part is when people are going through the healing process, they just need to forget about the weight. Like Tony mentioned, just forget about the weight. Just eat as much as you like. Get your body back to the way it should be, functioning the way it should be, and then in time, the weight loss will be so much easier.
and that actually like coincides with inflammation, like what you said. And it's amazing when like you're dealing with Lyme disease, with autoimmune, big deals within the brain, alpha cat, like all that stuff. And instead of doing this for that, this for that, this for that, it sounds like you jumped into it and took care of everything, and everything just starts to progressively get better. And that's quite amazing. And that's the thing I see a lot of people in this space, and we complicate things and we say, well, this for that and that. We're in uncharted territory. And I mean, stories like yours is so powerful because it's possible. And
How can you argue how can
yeah,
you argue against it?
and do
Like,
you really need a study to prove?
yeah.
Like this is what Mark and I talk about quite often, and on this channel especially. We hear about the study this day. There's no studies. I'll tell you what, Miranda, like you're living proof. I don't care if it's anecdotal or what. Like that is truly amazing. And I mean,
Like, sorry, Tony, but I had this conversation with someone today on social media because I put up a post today about seed oils, and the first question I got from these people was, "Where's your study?
yeah,
Where's your
yeah,
study?" And it's like, do we actually need a study for this shit?
yeah.
Do we actually need a study? Like, Miranda is a perfect example. She did all the diets. She did veganism. She thought she was eating healthy. Nothing was working. The diagnosis, the doctors didn't have a clue. She had to figure out all this herself.
What a powerful message. Really hope you're enjoying this as much as we were when we were having this talk. I just wanted to ask everybody, please, do you mind just hitting that like button? Subscribe to the channels. And please leave a comment. It helps us push this out and it helps us spread this word. We really want to get these messages out, and it really helps when you get involved. We are live every Sunday here on my channel, Food for Thought, Question Everything, and also at the Dutch Carnivore, or at Dutch Carnivore. Peter's not here today, but he's here in spirit. We miss you, Peter. And now, getting back to Maranda Adams. Miranda, what did the doctors say?
Well, luckily, I did have one doctor at the time that her husband is a heart surgeon here, and he does the diet. So I was telling her about it, and I was like, because my first visits, coming back to the doctor, because I basically went every 2 weeks or a month, and she's like, well, it's probably good for you, but you have to stick to it. I don't know if you're strong enough. So she actually inspired me in a weird way, because
Oh,
I'm like,
that's good.
I got a little bit like, well, I can do this. um, but she did say that her husband, and he works there. So that was sort of cool that I had that connection. And I hope more and more doctors just get, I know there's Rivero and a few
Yeah,
places, but more and more doctors just need to get to that point,
and
because these other diets, there's just too much processing in all the foods anymore. The more I study it, the more I see how fruit and veggies are processed. It's not healthy. It's
it's
not.
it's horrifying, and there's so many variables. And I mean, even in meat, like when we go off the, obviously the best like I love the advice where it's the best quality you can afford, because does it have a make a difference? Of course. And I mean, I think when, like, we talk about this a lot too, is getting back to nature. The animals raised in a natural environment are going to be probably better than animals that aren't. Like, do we really need to study this? I mean, it is or isn't. But when we look at fruits and vegetables and the amount of, like, in our supermarkets, holy crap, like what's
Yeah,
gone on and how they get there, man. And then they tell you that, oh, your genetics are all like, poor you. You've got MS or lupus. That's you, and we don't know anything, and it's so crazy how you've done this amazing, miraculous sort of turnaround, come back to life, and someone's sitting on the fence telling, well, that's not sustainable. That's not the right way to do it. Like, it's like the Gary Fettke thing, curing curing type 2 diabetes inappropriately. So you lose your medical license, and that's great that you found a doctor that is on board and actually that's quite amazing. And so when you how long, like, it seems to me like a lot of people, the more serious the problems, quite often the quicker they feel things. The people that are not, quite suffering like that, that's where they kind of get off they're like, it's not doing anything. But I mean, you're a classic example. So what was like the sort of time frame when you were like, okay, this is the way?
Well, I had the 2 weeks where the pains were better, and then 3 months the energy. I did the first, I'd say year. People kept convincing me, when you need a few carbs, so I'd have my little cheats because I'd get back and forth with that social pressure.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not healthy to do it long term. This is just a short term thing, and I still hear that from people. They're like, "This is short term," and it's like, no, you do feel more and more benefits every couple months or longer you go. And like you said too, the weight loss, like I was 70 pounds overweight, didn't know it was that much. I had planned on a little bit more weight than what I am now. But at first it wasn't, at first I lost, the first, I would say 3 or 4 months, and then it did sort of plateau. And I think that was a part of like the healing part, because other parts were getting better. I went from, I've never drove a car to I could drive. I got a license. I never, could work. I working full time now, and where it was, for the last, a couple of years now. So all these things were changing, and my body was changing, and able to lift more and do more and function more, not get tired and sleep good. Because when you have fibro, your body always hurts. So you don't sleep.
Yeah.
You never sleep. And I slowly just got off medication. So I, would say, well, I don't need my sleeping medicine, Oh, I mean, because they had me on a plethora of
No,
stuff.
I can only imagine.
And so I just slowly started dissipating all of that. And then I'm like, well, I even feel better, because when you're off of it, you do, once you're better, you don't need it. And so when you get off of it, you feel better.
No
And
kidding.
it is just, so it's been like that. It is a journey. I was thinking about that actually this week. Your mindset sort of gets to a point of, I don't know how to word it exactly, but like you're disabled, or like you can't do it. And I was even thinking about it this week. I was like, I get tired in the day, and sometimes I'm like, oh, I got to go home. No, I don't.
Yeah.
I can push through that now. Or I'm at the gym and I'm like, because I just started the gym a couple months ago. I never really worked out until lately. I was always scared of it, because if you push yourself with fibro, and it's these mindsets that they sort of gave me, you're always going to have this. You need to get in a mindset that you will not be able to do these things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of interesting as you come out of the mindset, or even my family, like, oh, can she handle that stress, or can she handle that, picking that up? They have to go, yeah, she could do this.
Oh man,
that's amazing.
There is so much. Like, I mean, it's so amazing to see, like, just how you took a leap of faith and it turned into this, life changing, unbelievable situation, and it's continuing. And that's what I resonate with you there, because I'll be 4 years in May, like just at the end of this month, and I'm still learning. I'm still feeling different things. I'm still like realizing there's so much more to it than just, and it's something that you can't describe, because I would not have known any of this when I first started. I gave it a shot, and I just kept getting better. Things started going like, what? That's gone. What? That's happening. And it seems to be like, how we overcomplicate everything. It's like, if you have this disease, condition, or problem, you look at that disease, condition, or problem and deal with it. But it's obviously, it's becoming more clear every day with every story that we hear. You take care of everything from the foundations, from nutrition, and people argue that this is bad. And
no, it's just a matter of, like, what you're saying to yourself, like, listen, I used to go through an awful lot of pain, a lot of pain. It's like, when people say to you, it's just a fad, it's just a short-term fix. It's like you don't understand. Like you don't understand that every year I'm getting better at this. I'm getting better. I'm feeling younger. You know what I mean? My workouts are getting better. I don't feel any pain anymore. I'm not fatigued. I'm not tired. I'm not exhausted. These are all things that I just couldn't figure out. I couldn't figure it out. Nobody could tell me. Whereas now, like, I just don't see myself ever changing, regardless whether I'm eating a piece of steak on a plate. I don't see it that way. I just see this as basically food that's just fueling my body, and that's it. I don't look at food as entertainment anymore. I don't look at food as pleasure anymore. It's just food. That's all it is.
Miranda, how strict are you about this? And if you sort of deviate, like you said, like at the beginning, obviously we all get inundated with you need carbs. We got to battle those demons all individually because I mean, it's tough sometimes, especially with pressure, social. How did you navigate that? Like, how did you like narrow it down and realize? And what happens when you sort of strayed?
Well, yeah, I've had a few flare-ups. Not nearly, they weren't as severe, over time. Like,
Mhm.
when I even have a salad at the beginning, I'd flare back up. And my flare-ups usually lasted like a month or two. So it would last, a little while at the beginning. And then I just realized, as I do that, that wasn't worth it. Why am I thinking? Why am I, I need to go harder core. And for me, dairy is inflammatory. Just I have a reaction to it. I've never done raw milk though, so I can't say 100%. But so I went to goat products, and I do the goat products, and none of them get to me. And I just pretty much, for me, it's seafood and beef. But I think, people find that in their journey, like if they can do chicken, if they could do eggs, if they, what works for them, because your body starts just telling you like, no,
Oh, for
this
sure.
is not something I like. And so that's been and now, yeah, I'm pretty strict because there's no reason not to be. And I just,
You have a friend.
I grilled up a bunch of fat, and I
I
opened the
see
door,
that on your videos. I
and
love
a
that.
whole bunch of flies came in, and I was like trying to get them before we started.
I
But
love.
but yeah, so now it's just not worth it. It's not worth feeling bad for one day. It's even a day. I won't flare up, like I used to, but there's just not even worth it for a day or a week or
that's something that I really try and hammer home with people is when you know yourself, like you've got like unfortunately it sucks because you have some pretty serious things that can happen when you sort of stray off the path. But most people, they don't really realize what's going on. And that is the thing that I love when it's kind of like, it's like the level up is when you start to realize, is this worth it? I never tell people like the idea is to live. Like we want to be doing this stuff so that we can live. And I mean, all of our stories have it's been like an awakening and then a feeling. And sometimes, I don't mean you can't go on a holiday and enjoy yourself or discover an ethnic culture, a cuisine, but is it worth it? And you have to have that metric on your own personal opinion. Some people can get away with it, and that's where we always put this stuff on, like everybody's the same, and it's definitely not. And I love how you're saying that.
Yeah, because this is why we need to move away from like the diet culture, because this is what people think. People think that if I just lose weight, I'm gonna be healthy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like about, okay, if I'm carrying a lot of weight, all I need to do is just take off this weight, just abide by what 90% of people, what they say about the law of thermodynamics, just focus on calories, the weight comes off. But then when the weight comes off, it's like, okay, well, where do I go from here? And this is where people end up binging, and they end up getting this mad eating disorder.
Yeah.
And in turn, it actually makes their health even worse.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when people are constantly dieting all the time, like the amount of stress you're putting on your body is unbelievable. And this is where we're all going wrong. where we have to move away from diet. We need to move away from the diet culture and just focus on what's important, and that's health.
Yeah, and just eat like a human being. Like, and I mean, people will argue all day long about what that is, but and I mean, I don't necessarily think it's vegetables. I think we are so far removed from what are natural, like, organically, naturally grown vegetables in, really, really mineralized earth and a nice environment. Like, we're so far away from that. So, all the virtue signaling, and I don't disrespect anybody for their ethics or religion, but the virtue signaling people that think they're shopping at Whole Foods, getting a greener, sustainable, life saving broccoli, they just don't get it. And I think it's very nuanced. I mean, obviously, Miranda, with you, like, how have you ever experimented with vegetables, or is it been like, nope, like all of it, no salads, like any, they say like brassicas and those kind of vegetables are so healthy for you. So have you ever tried with that stuff, or has it been just
Yeah, I did at the beginning,
yeah,
but yeah, it just always creates a reaction. So it's like, no, just
yeah,
not, like I said, not worth it. And you're right too, when some people don't have as many symptoms. My husband's been doing it for a year, and he, didn't have as many. He did have GERD. They
yeah.
did balloon his throat
Oh
a
man,
couple times, in his stomach, because he's starting to have that such GERD or whatever, that
yeah,
acid reflux. But he never really had a lot of symptoms, except for he did admit he's always been tired, like since he was
yeah,
a kid. And as he even says, he's cheated quite a bit throughout his little year here. And
yeah,
every time he goes, well, mine doesn't show like yours does. He goes, but I
exactly,
feel it and I can tell a difference. I don't want
yeah,
to wake up. I feel more fatigued. I, don't think as straight.
yeah,
So every person, I think, goes through it, but sometimes I think you might justify it, or like you said too, the social pressure. There is such a pressure, like people just. But I've come to a new thought, which is when we go on vacation, right? When we go and do something fun, it should be about the people. It should be
Yeah.
about the experience. It's not really about the food, but we've
Mm,
always centered it around the
yes,
food.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
and
Good
and
point.
like that's such a good point, because realistically, I honestly, I preach the pregame. If I'm going to be in a situation where I'm going to be either tempted or out of my control, I fill up on the stuff I know is good for me, and I just get so full that at the worst I'm going to taste something, or at the best, you know what I mean. It's just not. I'm not going into a place where I'm like, oh my god, I haven't had that for 5 years. And I'm starving. You know what? It's just knowing yourself and knowing, and it's like what you said about your husband too. It's like the cheating. It becomes a different ballgame when you're actually feeling the symptoms that are unmanageable, and the people that can get away with it, they. And I think there's that. It's like, why are you doing this, and what is the end game? Because as I feel good, I now use that as my metric to decide if I want to have a treat or not. I don't
Mm,
look at it as, oh, I can't wait to have sugar on Saturday.
mm,
Or, and
mm,
I play a little game with myself. I don't know if you guys do this, but I go like, okay, I want some ice cream. You don't eat it. And then I just
mm,
I test myself, see how long that's in my head. And it's
mm,
and it's gotten shorter over time. And now it's take it or leave it. And it's that control that I'm sure that you found, and unfortunately, some people have to, because you're feeling physically worse, and it's not a little bit of brain fog. And once you start realizing and feeling great, and I've found that stuff just it's not compromised anymore. Like, I am in control. I choose when, and I'm not ever assuming that I'll just be okay. I eat something that's sort of bad. Like, I did a CGM experiment. I had some stuff that I don't normally think, and I become the, ooh, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. And it was shocking when I had a piece of pizza with some friends, and they were all horrified. They're like, "What do you mean you're going to eat pizza?" Which was kind of nice, because it was the opposite of social pressure. That doesn't happen very often. They usually want me to eat pizza. And I watched my blood sugar go through the roof with 2 slices of pizza. And it's like, you see, guys, this isn't sugar, but it is sugar. And then I kind of felt after. And it's just like, that's that internal wisdom that we often.
Yeah, see, I used to get that at the very, very beginning when I started my carnivore journey. I used to go out with herself, and I used to feel that pressure, and I used to get that pressure from her and friends that why are you not eating anything else? Why are you not having dessert? Like, why are you not having this? Why are you not having that? Because I was only just having basically steak and maybe the vegetables, but it was that pressure. It was that pressure in the background of people looking at you, people judging you, and that's where I struggled. Whereas now, like Miranda says, I don't look at it like that anymore. No. I just look at it like, okay, if I'm going on holidays, I'm going on holidays to enjoy myself. I'm not going on holidays to look at food. Like I've been on many holidays where you go into a hotel and it's all inclusive. You're eating literally non-stop all day. Like you have your breakfast, your lunch, your dinner, and then they're coming around at the pool. They're giving you snacks, popcorn, all this rubbish. So it's just constant, you know what I mean? And don't get me started on the alcohol. Like people just think that it's amazing how people will never have a drink at 4 a.m. in the morning, but they can have a drink at 4 a.m. if they're going on a flight. It's incredible.
Yeah, true. That is true. And I mean, you know, all the people that you know, it's if you change once I think, I don't know about you guys, how you guys felt about this, but once you start changing that perspective on what actually nourishes your body, alcohol becomes it's a different thing now to me. Like I don't want to say I never drink, because I just don't ever look forward to it or go after it. Like, you know, if it's at Christmas time and I have a glass of wine with something, sure, but I don't have any misconceptions about how bad it is for you and the poison it is. And especially, you know, I don't know how can you have alcohol, Miranda, or you choose not to? What's your story with that? Because it's quite often with carnivores, that's sort of an area where people like coffee. They don't let it go.
No, yeah, no. I used to do a little bit of the wine, like you said, sort of a dark red, but no, it does change. I don't know if like your tastes change or just the reaction you have from it isn't the same. It's not I mean, I can get more of a mental and physical high off of raw oysters.
Yeah, I know. Like I've done a couple videos and you've commented, and I've seen some of yours with oysters. I'm like, yes. So that's something we can sort of switch gears on. How did you always like seafood and oysters, or is this a new thing?
I did always like seafood. I was a little bit more into just maybe the sushi rolls or whatnot. But there is something like if I get my raw oysters, I don't know, my happy sensors are just better for a week or two. I just feel just a little bit more, whatever the zinc and the minerals within it just does something that you actually, I mean, it feels a little better than me drinking a glass of wine used to.
Kidding. I absolutely agree with you. And I was the guy that, like, I mean, I'm not a big fish. Like, I'll eat sashimi because it's good for me. I don't like it. Like, it's not like I love it. But oysters, I remember when I was 20-something years old and someone said, oh, here, try a raw oyster. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. And I put it in my mouth and I, like, thought I was in hell. Like, it was like, oh, my God, this tastes like and that's what I remember this. This tastes like you're eating the dock at the ocean where the boats tie up to. That's what I'm chomping on, the wood. And it was so crazy. And now, the reason why this happened to me was I was out for my grandmother's birthday and I didn't want to be that guy. And I'm looking at this restaurant menu and I'm like, I can't eat anything. This is good. And then I was like, oh, well, there's oysters. And I was like, okay, well, let's just try them because they're carnivore. So I'm going to muscle my way through a dozen oysters. I loved them. And I was like, and now I'm the same way. Every now and then I just get you need oysters. And then I go out for oysters with my mom and something happens. It's like, oh, it's wild. And that's cool how that changes for sure. That's really insane. And I remember a couple of times I posted some oyster stuff and I think that's how we, our TikToks crossed, because you're like, yeah, oysters. And I was like, yeah.
What's happening, people? Hope you're enjoying the show. Quick one before we head back. If you guys have not spoken to Coach Tony before, what are you waiting for? This guy is one of the most knowledgeable people I know when it comes to nutrition. His results speak for themselves, guys. If you guys want to reach out to Tony today, you can do so at TonyStewartCoaching.com. He's also on social media at Tony_Food for Thought. I can't recommend enough, guys. You guys go and follow this guy, where you'll find nothing but quality content, testimonials from people, from clients just like you, people that were struggling with their overall health or struggling with their weight. Now back to the show.
That's pretty cool, because I do believe that, like, our bodies, and that's where the next level intuition comes in. And I think you've probably experienced that, 3 years of knowing yourself. There's certain things that draw, and I'm starting to feel, I don't know if you guys do this, but I can feel the difference between quality of eggs now. I can feel the difference. I feel better when they're certain farms, because we've got quite a few farms around here, and it's really quite interesting. And I think that might be the next level stuff, but I don't know if you guys notice that. Do you notice that with quality, especially with all the stuff going on, Miranda?
Well, yeah, I still haven't found the right egg, I guess you could say. I have tried the farm fresh. I have tried and there's not like a huge difference, but if it is farm fresh, it is better. It doesn't seem to like create body aches or anything weird, but I just easily feel a little fatigued or such. So I'm like, okay, no eggs still, but it could be that. It could just be finding what they're eating and what they're doing.
I think that, like, when they're monogastric, it's funny how people just say, oh, this is all bullshit. Well, they have one stomach, they eat unnatural environment. What do you think? It's probably not as good as a chicken in its natural environment eating what it's supposed to. But I mean, I find some qualities of beef, it's unreal how that awareness changes with your diet. Like, there's certain things, some people gravitate towards pork. I like pork, but I'm a beef, like, all the way guy. I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about that, but
yeah, no. The one thing I get with women, I got a lot of women coming on board with me, and they struggle with histamine issues.
Yeah.
And the one thing I'm always saying to them, like, listen, what's the diet like? And they'll say, like, it's mostly rich in chicken, which is a bad sign. They'll eat like a lot of fish, but it's all lean sources, and they'll eat a lot of red meats. I find that if you have a histamine issue, and I used to have this myself, because I was eating a lot of ground beef. It wasn't until I changed it to lamb.
Yeah.
That's when I noticed, wow, I feel good. And with the eggs as well. I could eat a pasteurized egg, and I would be in bits. I would be exhausted. I'd be tired. I'd have this brain fog. I wouldn't feel good. It wasn't until I changed the egg to a duck egg.
Yeah.
That's when I was like, wow, I feel incredible here. I feel amazing.
That's pretty cool. And they're higher in cholesterol too. They're higher in fat. They've got more it makes sense, right? Like, that's our brain food for sure. Okay.
I'm going to try that out, because I do have the histamine issues, and that's why I do try to always get beef that is not aged.
Yeah.
Real aged, because most of a lot of the beef, they age forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you won't have any issues probably with the steak, but with the ground beef, that's usually where the triggers are. So I would say, just get rid of the beef and just change it to lamb. And I'm pretty sure within a week or two.
It's like you said there, that just makes sense, because lamb is new, not aged, right? Like that right there. That's, ooh, look at this. Light bulbs are going off. That's, it makes perfect sense. Or, so there might be something to try. I know some people might kill me through the screen here, but veal, right? Because it's younger beef. So it probably doesn't have the same thing. Interesting. Okay. I've seen Miranda and her TikTok videos, and what impresses me, because I am an OMAD guy. I don't see a lot of women that are capable of doing OMAD, because I think there's a lot of kind of, can you eat enough food? Are you getting enough? Do you understand the nourishment side? What drew you to OMAD, and how would you sort of help people navigate to what you do anyway?
Well, it started at the beginning of my journey. I'd say probably 6 months in is when I sort of started the OMAD. Just because it sort of started happening. I went to 2 meals, of course. You sort of naturally gravitate to that. And then I just a couple days did the 1 meal, and I'm like, I feel even better. My body isn't continually working on food. It's not continually processing. And so it could heal more, it could do more. So I'm like, I think I'm going to try this. And the first week or a couple of days, it's going to be a little hard. You're going to be a little hungry. but then you get used to it and you just eat more. You want to make sure you're eating enough in it. Like you said, that's the biggest thing. You don't want to just have a little 8-ounce or whatever plate. I mean, I even at 117 pounds, it just depends on the day, but I usually go through at least a pound, if not up to 24 ounces.
Brilliant.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, and I think a lot of times, I know some people that I'm helping, they get into fasting, and I think there's so much nuance, and there's so much like other variables about fasting and eating, and I think it should be pretty individual. And I love it that a woman can think that way, because quite often women it's the programming, all of this stuff, eating less and not getting enough, eating low fat. It's that stuff that we really, really have a hard time kind of pushing through. I mean, I still do it. I mean, I can eat a lot of steak. Like, I can eat a lot of beef. I mean, I've crushed a 3-pound prime rib roast, and I was like, this is still delicious. So let's keep going. And I think there's a lot of difference with that. And it seems like, did you come across that? Like, do you do that all the time, or are you just sort of just full intuition?
Yeah, pretty much all the time. There might be a day or something, especially with me adding exercise lately, that I notice I just need like a little piece of fat at the end of the day or something. Not a lot, but like a little snack if I'm just a little tired, because you can tell you don't necessarily get super hungry a lot, because that's not, every once in a while that'll happen, but not a lot. But you'll just sort of kind of feel tired. You'll just be like, I'm really blah, I'm really, something's different. It's time to have a little bit more fat, a little bit more something to kick it back up.
No doubt. And that's another thing. Like, I laugh, like a couple, everybody turns into a butter muncher. And I remember, or, even like I have tallow, and I just take a tablespoon of tallow and just eat it off the brick. It's kind of weird, but I mean, I remember watching, it was like years ago, Steve Finney with Verda and keto. And he was explaining keto, and I remember this because I was like, there's no way that's ever happened to me. He'd be like, you're going to eventually, once you get into this, you're going to open the fridge and the butter's going to look delicious. And I'm like, get out of here. Like, how is this possible? Now, that's kind of my go-to as well. Like, I look at fat to kind of just get me by. If I know because I'm usually no problem eating enough protein.
I'm the exact same. When I cook my meal, I'm weird. I'm weird because I eat my food in the pan, so I don't take it out of the pan. I just leave it in the pan. And usually when I'm finished the meat part, the pan is like full of fat, and to me that's like a dessert. Yeah. I'm just licking it. I'm licking the pan, and it's like, this is amazing. And I'm looking at it, and people are looking at me and saying, are you just eating fats? And I'm like, yeah. And it's like, it tastes amazing. A little bit of salt on it. It tastes incredible. And honestly, it's the most enjoyable part of my day. Honest to God, I love it. I love when I have my dinner and I'm eating the meat, and then when it comes to the end, if I have all that grease in the end of the pan, and I'm like, I'm just gonna enjoy this. This is my dessert.
I remember, Miranda, a couple of your videos, and you have that chunk of fat, and it's like, let's just eat this, and I'm like, yes, yes, it's pretty crazy. I used to work at a steakhouse when I was a kid, and it was pretty wild because I thought I was killing myself eating all that red meat. I ate steak every single day, and I thought, well, I'm young, I'm gonna have the heart attack later. Like, that's how I felt. And I would cut prime rib, and we cut off the fat to put on the plate. I would eat the fat, like closet eat the fat. People are like, you're nuts. That's gonna kill you. And now, after all these years and all this stuff, I'm like, probably the stuff that was keeping me alive. Like, actually, unbelievable. So it's kind of crazy how we've come full circle. But it's nice to see that you've got that, because not a lot of people understand OMAD, and I think when you come from a specific, like, especially a woman who's like usually that eat less, move more, low calorie, low fat, eating OMAD can be very subjective. But like even from your story, it's like all things are off the table when you start getting nourished, and it's really nice to see that We don't need
Well,
to.
my husband was the same with fat. He never ate the fat. I did here and there, but he was very, I mean, he just couldn't even stand the taste of it or the texture. And it's amazing to see his journey even of
Which is,
he eats a lot now. He's actually like, well, this doesn't have a lot on it, you know, and we'll eat more and more because your body starts just craving it. And I think people don't realize that as you get into it, yes, at first you're going to be sort of shocked, right?
yeah,
You know, your body's sort of like, what are you doing? What is this? But over time, you actually start just craving it and wanting it and like, oh, I need this. And it's probably the most satisfying food, which is really weird.
yeah.
I don't think I've ever, before I started this, realized that I was never satisfied when I ate. I was always hungry. And
Yeah.
my son has the same issue. I'm trying to get him in it because he's never been full. It's like you're never really full. Even if you ate some protein in it, you never feel that. You could literally eat another meal after your meal. And it's like, that's just weird. And this is the first time you're actually like, you get full and you're like, I can eat another bite. Like
Yeah.
if I'm, you know, if it's it just, I'm done. I'm
Yeah,
full.
and that's a good word because that's what I get. I'm done. I'm not, and it's funny because now I eat OMAD, so I eat a lot of food. So most people they're just they can't even look at my plate because they're like, "You're going to eat all that in one shot," and I'm like, "I have no problem," and I'm not bloated. Then I could go work out after. Like it's unbelievable. I'm done eating. I'm not, I'm not stuffed, but I'm just done. And it's quite amazing what happens. And with watching people with fat, I think because Mark touches us a lot on this as well as hormones and your digestive enzymes, I think play a huge part. Your stomach acidity. When it starts to get back to this human function, that all that stuff changes. And I think, we always like, well, you need this peptide, this enzyme, this. Well, you need the building blocks for them first, and like you need to get the machine moving before you can.
Yeah, exactly. Because when I used to eat like 6 or 7 meals a day, I was only having roughly around maybe about 30 or 40 grams of protein with each meal, probably little bit less. And then when I did go into carnivore, I struggled at the very, very beginning. I couldn't finish a steak, maybe 300 grams.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I was really, really struggling. But like you guys, I can put away easily a pound or two of beef easily. Like I think I mentioned this to you a few weeks ago, Tony, or this was actually before the Christmas. We went out to a steakhouse. It was this massive steakhouse, and they had this competition in there where they have this 2.5 pound steak, and they say like, listen, if you can finish this steak in 1 hour, then you don't pay the bill. Honest to God, this is no word of a lie. I finished it in 41 minutes.
Yeah, that's about right.
In 41 minutes, the guy came.
I'll take my time.
And I'll never forget it. The guy came around to me around 28, 29 minutes. He was like, "You're nearly finished that." And I was like, "Yeah, I'll have this finished in the next 10 minutes." He was like, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, I'll have this finished." He says, "You're not going to finish it all, are you?" He says, "Yeah, are you not feeling sick? Are you not worried about having a heart attack?" And then this couple across from me were looking at me in horror. They were looking at me in horror and saying, "He's going to have a heart attack."
You're going to die
right now. And these two people were having a dessert.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's crazy. It's crazy.
In case you're wondering where Peter is, he's off doing Peter things. But we do miss him. And hey, if you are a type 1 diabetic and you're learning about it and you're probably hearing a lot of information out in the nutrition space, in the health space, well, I'll tell you what, if you have type 1 diabetes and you want to know how to, really, really take hold of it, follow Peter. Peter's the Dutch carnivore on all social media platforms. This guy brings a wealth of knowledge, and he's got an interesting sort of charm to him too. He's from Holland, but we love him anyway. But seriously, guys, he's a master. He's mastered his type 1 diabetes, and I think you do yourself a great service. Make sure you follow him. Back to the show.
Miranda, do you count any macros or anything?
I don't. I see people do that all the time, especially when they're starting. I'm not sure if they should, but I mean, I think everybody's different. Some people like to micromanage, and I'm more of a planner, micromanager. But when I had started, I was just going with what they, had sort of said to do, which was just be free and eat until you're full. And that's what I went with, was just, because I think you start learning your own body signals. Like, you don't even know that you're full or hungry until you started. You think but then you're like, oh, this is what full is. This is what hunger is.
Yeah. Your body has no idea what a calorie is.
No.
We didn't. Sorry, Tony. We didn't do this. We didn't do this like 1,000 years ago. We didn't just go out, hunt or prey, and say, hang on a second, before I eat that, I need to know how many calories is in that food. It's just ludicrous.
And I mean, and when you're looking at, like, it's so funny how, all three of us are perfect examples of, measure. I used to do it too. I used to, like, okay, I'm going to eat this much fat, this much protein. And like more of my keto times, I took a food journal, and I was like, this, even though I was into it, it wasn't that bad. But I was like, as soon as it was done, like, I went carnivore, and I was like, throw the manual away. Like, this is easy. And I think, like, a lot of people just starting out, you're right. Like, there's a feeling out process, and like, we got fat adaptation. Like, how fat adapted are you? How sugar dependent are you? How's your body? How's your digestion? And then as things start to click, you can start to tweak more. And I think most of the time we end up eating more. That's so. Did you? How was you were mentioning sort of the weight? Did you even care about weight loss at this time, or was it more just to deal with the issues?
Well, yeah, I mean, of course, all girls want to lose weight, but it wasn't like, it wasn't prevalent. I mean, the feeling better was what was most important. Just to not have body aches, just to be able to function was the primary. This last year is when it just, I could tell. It's sort of interesting during the healing journey, because literally I need to get a new head scan and just even see if there's anything there, because I literally had a couple points where my head hurt really bad, but then felt like it was tingling and better. And I almost wonder, because then I could think even clearer, and I could see things clearer. My eyes I do wear some glasses, but I have really, really bad astigmatism, and they went down from 20 years ago, my eyesight. And so there's just different healing little things that occur. So this last year is when it just went farther than I thought. My goal was like 145.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it just was like, oh, well, you're a lot better. So it's going to just start dropping off. And now it's just, to a good point. And it's that's where we're at. And and then people don't, I've had the people worry like, oh, you're going to get too thin, or it's going to, you're going to keep losing. That doesn't happen either. Your body's just fixing itself, getting rid of the toxins, getting rid of all that, right? All the, because your fat cells hold the toxins.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's getting rid of those toxins, and it's just, okay, we're good. We're at a healthy point. And like you said, you need to make sure you eat enough, of course. You don't want to, and we have been programmed. I mean, at the beginning, it was a little hard for me mentally to go, I'm really going to eat this and lose weight.
Yeah. No doubt. That's and it's kind of funny, because I mean, I'm the same kind of way. I've gone through these. I mean, I lost a lot of weight keto, but it wasn't like, it didn't feel. It still felt like I was on a diet. It felt like I was like, there was an end, and it was like, when is this going to end? As soon as I tried carnivore for, a month, 2 weeks in, I was like, you got to be kidding me. This is like. And that was that holy shit feeling. That was
and you know what annoys me is when you hear people say that, okay, you're doing carnivore, you're doing keto, but the only weight you're losing is water weight. You're losing a lot of water. You're losing a lot of water weight. And I'm like, but what? Like, you're not making any sense. All this water weight is leading to inflammation. This is all leading to the reason why our metabolic diseases are going through the roof. So give me a valid argument why we need to be holding this water in the first place. And they can't do it, because again, their mindset is only switched on, okay, weight loss can be achieved without carnivore or keto. Yes, it can. You can You can eat McDonald's every day of the week if you want, and you will still lose weight. Are you going to be healthy? No.
Yeah.
That's what we're focusing on. We're focusing on what's important. What's more sustainable long term? Your health or losing a little bit of weight? I know which one I'm going to choose.
Yeah. Because Miranda, now knowing what you know now, is there any way that you're going to be? What's your? Would you ever stop this?
No, and I'm encouraging, my family and different people. There's a couple with some severe health problems that are now starting, and I'm excited to see their journey, because I just know, I've heard so many people's journeys, and so many people getting their body repairing itself.
Yeah.
We're not putting in the seed oils. And one thing, to go back to the cheats, one thought that I always put in my head too is, if I eat the seed oil, it could be in my body for 3 to 5 years.
No kidding.
Exactly. Yeah. 100%.
And
100%.
Not only that, what like was funny, Mark and I were just talking before you came on. The pesticides, chemicals, and like they are fat soluble, so they hang around in your fat cells, especially the ones that are weak and dysfunctional. So if you're made from these seed oils, already you're in trouble, and it's storing all these. And there is some real like stuff, I think, that we can't really study. Obviously, we can't really explain. But when you put all these things together and you start turning over your adipose tissue, your fat cells in general, I think that's a great way, Miranda, to think about it, because that seed oil now it's in your tissues, and it's not a good thing. I mean, anybody that wants to argue that they're okay or they're decent, well, you know what? In a perfect metabolic healthy body, you probably are a little bit more resilient to a little bit of exposure to seed oils, but don't tell me they're good for you, and don't tell me that. And I mean, I think we're all, have you ever had something with seed oils? Does that kind of cause things, or?
Well, before I had done this journey, I was sort of kind of going through foods and trying to eliminate certain things. Oddly, citric acid was a big one. And, most of it's made from a mold. It's not from lemon or lime juice, like I always thought. And carrageenan, that's in, a lot of the dairy. So those were the two that I sort of kind of eliminated a bit before, because I just noticed every time I had that ingredient and I would react more. So I was like, that's interesting. So there is weird ingredients that I don't think people realize are in their foods too.
Of course. Carrageenan is one of those things that kind of like, it's put in stuff, and it's like, why is it there? And if it's there, people argue, well, it's not bad for you. Why do we have to argue? Like, when something's not naturally occurring in something, we have to really argue if it's good or bad for us when it's in there foreign, like, well, they put it in for health. I think Mother Nature would have known that and put it in there if it was healthy, right? Like, that's kind of my opinion, but that's interesting that you say that stuff. And it's kind of cool. Like, I mean, Mark and I, we talk about this all the time, about just being aware. If you start reading ingredients, you start to seriously start to go, whoa. And I'm sure, like, your diet sounds like you don't read any ingredients.
Well, that's the other thing. That's why I'm like, especially like you said, people just want to lose weight or anything. It's like, it's easy. It just makes it so easy. You don't have to think. The only thing you have to think about is whether, maybe if you're getting bacon or something processed, if it has anything in it, but you don't really have to think. It's sort of dummy proof.
Yeah.
It's just, you don't have to macro. You don't have to eat the grass-fed expensive if you can't afford it. You don't have to any of that. I think like you said, we all complicate it.
Yeah.
I've been seeing a lot of the no salt out there. I'm not sure about that, and just, they're trying to make all these different things. And it's like, just make it easy. It just could be easy, it just.
And the thing I think too is like, just go with it. Like, if things start improving and start going, just go with it. And if they stop improving, and you feel great, go with it. If you start to feel a little bit worse or something's happening, look into it, adjust. But it's so funny. We're always like, everybody's so much about like, oh, you have to do this and this is what you, and I mean, if you look at some of the pioneers of this diet, you know, the Sean Bakers and the Ken Berries, eat fatty meat, repeat, done. Like, you know, and it's amazing how we start going off like just, well, I do this kind of carnivore, or I'm this kind of like, I drink coffee, you're not a real carnivore. It's like, holy cow. And I think that's where, you know, we get into these. It's really tough when people start to let go. You let go of what we used to think, and then come into the new you, and just the more you sort of open your mind to this stuff, it's quite amazing. And stories like yourself, Miranda, have to be shared. And I'm so thankful that you came on today, because that is so powerful. And if people would really just pay attention to what you are saying and these situations that I see every day with, like, you know, people, and they just don't understand. And when you say something like stop eating bread, they go, well, it's good for you, you know. And it's like, well, isn't it worth just trying to not? And then, you know, they'll say, well, this exercise or this dietitian or this nutritionist says you must do this. And that's where I think it gets crazy. And I mean, I really do. Your story, and I like the OMAD. Like, that's amazing that you do it, because like a lot of women that I talk to are like, there's no way I could do that, which fair enough. I mean, to eat enough food, and that's good. How are we doing for time? I think we're pushing an hour. We don't want to take up too much of your day, Miranda. I know we kind of had a little miscommunication. It's tough, Mark being over there in Ireland, and we're definitely missing Peter. I'm sure he'll be watching, and he would say hello. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on. And you know, we'd love to have you back on. Maybe come on a Sunday and do a little hangout. It's a little bit more of interactive with the people, but we really
Awesome.
I love your stuff on social media. And please, any last words, and tell people how they can get a hold of you.
Oh, well, I'm on a few social media platforms as Way of Eating, X, TikTok, Facebook. And yeah, just if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me, because I just, you know, and definitely they're going to be able to help you, because just try it. I think that's the biggest thing. Just people need to try it, not judge it. Just go in open and just see what happens.
That's awesome. Yes, for sure. Mark, any thoughts?
No, just thanks very much for Miranda for coming on. I love watching your social media as well. I'm learning an awful lot, and you're definitely spreading the right message. So keep doing what you're doing, because you're doing amazing.
And if everybody knows that we're doing this Sundays live, of course we'll record this, and we'll get. I'm gonna be sharing this with everybody I know, Miranda, because your story is quite powerful and it's amazing. And I'm not only proud, but I'm very impressed. And I love your stuff online. Like, it's funny. I feel like there's I think ever since the oysters, we've had a kindred spirit. So everybody, please follow Miranda and Way of Eating. I think we can all agree that this is the way.
100%.
Thank you so much for being here, and we'll talk soon.
Very nice to meet you.
Thanks for joining us for this conversation with Maranda Adams and her way of eating. I had a great time. I know Mark did. And on behalf of Peter, he wishes he could be here. So, guys, just a reminder, Sundays live on YouTube at Food for Thought, Question Everything, and on Dutch Carnivore on our channels, Sundays at 10 a.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. In the UK and Ireland, 7 p.m. in the Netherlands. Also, Mark Fitness Beyond Time 01 on all platforms. And don't forget about his Carnivore Evolutions podcast on Spotify and also on YouTube. Just hit Carnivore Evolutions, check it out. Great stuff. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. See you Sunday.